Everyone, remain calm.
Yeah, that's how it always starts. And later there's running and screaming.
Somebody talk to me! What is happening?
Welcome to Jurassic World.
You're listening to the Jurassic Park Podcast.
You want to consult here or in my bungalow? Hold on to your butts.
Well, we're back.
Hello and welcome to the 50th episode of the Jurassic Park Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Jost, and we are here to discuss all things Jurassic Park. In this episode, we've got some light news, a great chat in the Visitor Center with Zach Carlisle about the possible expanded universe, and we'll wrap it up with an audio clip from ChrisCrossMedia, where he talks about some of his favorite Jurassic comics. Before we get into it here, yes, I have a little bit of a sore throat, sorry about that, I'll try to push through, but I also wanted to plug a few things. Don't forget to check out that interview I did with WanderlovePress.com. I talked about the podcast and how I get this thing running every week. I'll post a link to the interview in the show notes. I was also part of the Lost World Week on Victoria Cantina's YouTube channel. Along with her review and unboxing of the Lost World 1997 Triceratops, I gave a look back at my original version of the toy and compared it to a few other Triceratops that I own. Make sure to find a link to the video in our show notes. I also have an article on our guest blog going up this week. Zach Carlisle was nice enough to include me on his blog, so I wrote a little bit about this week's news, which you'll hear in a minute. Make sure to check out his blog at saltygrave.blogspot.com to find the article. Alright, so let's get this show started off with a bit of Jurassic news from around the world.
18 minutes and your company catches up on 10 years of research.
Access me program. Access me security.
These pictures were taken in hospital in Costa Rica 48 hours ago.
I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but look.
Boy, do I hate being right all the time.
But today, I guarantee it.
Well, I'm not sure how much you would actually call this news, but the Playlist.net recently ran an interview with Colin Trevorrow, and he said the following about the new director, J.A. Bayona. We're moving into new territory. J.A. Bayona is an incredible director, and I know he'll push the boundaries of what a Jurassic movie is. I think it's important that we take risks. A franchise must evolve or perish. Alright, so a few key phrases here. New territory, push the boundaries, take risks, and evolve or perish. So what do we think this means? Well, I think we can assume from the language used in this article that we're going to get a very different film than we're used to. Now, he must mean shooting-wise because Colin and Derek are both in charge of the script. So the boundaries Bayona could push would be through the camera work and the style of the film. Either way, whatever happens, I'm looking forward to wherever Bayona takes us. Now, don't forget to check out the article I wrote for this week's guest, Zach Carlisle, and his blog at saltygrave.blogspot.com.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Explore the park like never before. Fly around Isla Nubla and visit park attractions. Get up close and personal with our dinosaurs. And experience Jurassic World the way it was meant to be experienced. Jurassic World 3D Project. Download it today for free.
Let's open up the doors to the Visitor Center and chat with blogger and comic book writer Zach Carlisle about a potential Jurassic expanded universe. Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about a potential expanded universe for Jurassic Park. And I'm joined by a blogger, comic book writer, and big Jurassic Park fan, Zach Carlisle. You may have heard him on the show before in the listener segment calling in. So how are things going, man?
Things are going good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm just excited to talk about this expanded universe. Since we don't have any expanded universe, I want to talk about, the potential for one.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, I think that's one of the things I've noticed that on the show is nobody's brought it up, it seems like.
Yeah, it's rare, because I think that's the problem is we don't have one. So, there's not too much to discuss in terms of that, because when you look at a series like Star Wars, for instance, they have, a giant catalog of films, books, comics, TV shows, and even more that they can, sift through and discuss and build off of. We just have 4 films here. And we do have a little bit to go off of from the Mizrahi Global website, the Backdoor website, where you could kind of hack in there and view a few things, thanks to Jack and Timothy from Jurassic Cast. But really, there's not much for us to go off of. And also, I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for sending in all those voicemails. It's awesome to hear from you and, other fans, almost every week. So I'm really glad you were able to do that, too. So I just wanted to say that before we get started.
Man, no, I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
To even play the voicemails and whatnot. So, no, I'm more than happy to do it.
Awesome. Yeah, hopefully, aside from this episode, we'll get you on some more, too.
That'd be great.
So what's your take on, a possible expanded universe for Jurassic Park?
Well, I think that they should start looking at, like what you're saying, comics, books, even novels, even what's been really popular right now is Netflix series.
Yes.
And I thought, well, why aren't we exploring those? And in these, a lot of the fans are asking to bring back the original cast in the next film and things like that. And I thought, well, you could do that, but you don't want to overdo a film. Like if we'll just take Batman versus Superman for example. I'm like 50-50 with the movie, but I feel like they crammed too much into there. So you don't want to do that with these movies. And from what I understand, I think the Universal, that is the studio, right? Yes. I'm just trying to remember correctly. It's Universal, yeah. Universal has, from what I read a long time ago, has got Chris Pratt on for 2 more films after Jurassic World. And so if they're talking about bringing back the original cast, you don't want to throw it all. I mean, you only got 2 more films left. So why not expand it out a little bit more? And I've got a couple ideas I think would be great.
Yeah, I did the same. I kind of wrote down a few ideas as well, because like you said, they need to basically share the wealth between different mediums, because 4 films is great. Like, we have a ton to watch. This stuff has been playing on AMC like nonstop the past few weeks, which is awesome. I love that. I want so much more. Like, I love being able to sit down and watch Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars Clone Wars and reading all that stuff. And for Indiana Jones, for instance, I love that series as well. And you have tons of books to go off of, tons of comics, and they're not necessarily in the canon of the film universe, but it's still material that you could take in and just remember and love. But I guess in terms of canon, we don't have anything. We do have the books, so you can take that, and they are drastically different than the films. So that's one thing. But I
would
definitely,
they be considered canon though? No,
definitely not. I mean, I guess the books are canon with themselves, and then the films are canon with themselves, since they're so different. But I want, like you said, a Netflix show or comics and stuff like that, because, I guess we have had a few comics here and there, but nothing too special, nothing too memorable.
Right.
And I think there's like a major turn for canon, like I was talking about, like, making sure everything fits in the same world, the same universe, and everybody knows each other. They're all, characters in the same world. And I'd like to see that for this series. I'm sure you would too.
It would be great. I mean, because you mentioned Star Wars. Like, before The Force Awakens came out, they came out with this series of novels. Marvel took on the rights of Star Wars again. And I believe that the comics are even canon.
Yeah, they are.
To now the movies, And so, and then the TV series, they're all canon. So, like... And you see the success that alone came with, then why not apply it? Why not give it a shot? And
that's the $1 million question, I think.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's just so many endless possibilities, and it doesn't even have to necessarily just be mentioned in any of the movies, really. I mean, or anything like that. So you could still keep the audience that like just wants to go see a good Jurassic World or Jurassic Park movie. Then they could just not really have to worry about what happened in the Netflix show or what happened in the comics or the novels or anything like that.
Yeah, they
can just go and still enjoy the movie. But for the hardcore fans, this would be a great opportunity to explore areas of this universe that the movies won't be able to explore, and even answer some questions that might leave the audience, or answer questions the audience might have, I guess, about certain things.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You can explain a lot more and give backstory to a lot of things that you can't spend time on in films. You know, you only have a little over 2 hours to go through everything, you know, to give everybody backstory, to give everybody enough time in that, you know, that story particularly. So it would be great to have those backstories and side stories as well, because when you take Marvel, for instance, they have, you know, Civil War's coming out right now.
Right.
But we also have the TV show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which it's doing its own thing, but at the same time, it's kind of leading to that movie in a way. And I mean, we don't know.
Same with Jessica Jones and Daredevil. So
exactly, they're all tying together. I am a little disappointed, I have to say, that the Marvel movies and the TV shows haven't, like, you know, connected more in a way. You know, they do have a few cameos here and there, and the overall story, I guess you could say, you know, translate through each other. But I would just love even more for, you know, a cameo appearance or two, you know, from the TV show to the movie, particularly, because we've gotten a few minor characters come from the movies to the TV show, but I'd love it to go the other way.
I hear you, man.
Yeah,
I'm all for it.
So you've got some good ideas here for Jurassic Park. What's your first one here?
Well, I thought one, and I'm going to throw this one out there and it's for a Netflix series.
Okay.
And I was thinking more along the lines of maybe a miniseries, nothing like that. I don't really see anything like this expanding into multiple seasons, but it could go that way. But my first thought would be like, bring back the kids from Jurassic Park.
Yes.
And see where they're at. And I thought, how cool would it be to do a series about a guy who works for the Mizrahi Global Corporation, and he's I guess you could say maybe a scientist and whatnot, helping develop some of these dinosaurs, but the person that he works under is Tim Murphy. And I really thought it'd be cool to make it more of like a dark twist to it, and make Tim the villain.
That would be absolutely
I know that
awesome.
sounds a little crazy, but I thought it'd be cool to see him want to take on his grandfather's legacy. But something about like psychologically what happened to him at that first park has just made him almost obsessive over making these creatures.
This, I gotta say, this sounds a lot like The Force Awakens.
Kinda, it really does. Now that you're saying that, I never even thought. Yeah, it's very wow.
Yeah, it's like identical. You literally, like, if I wasn't paying attention, you literally just described The Force Awakens.
Yep, you're right. I don't know if we can do this now.
But it applies. I think it applies perfectly.
Yeah, and it would just be cool, and just to see him be a little more dark and twisted, and maybe, I don't know, the way I envision it is more like a suspense thriller. You know, very creepy show.
Yeah.
But have them develop some dinosaurs that we haven't seen yet. Maybe some that people would like to see. And I'm not a big, I can't name like every dinosaur out there or anything, but I would like to see something that's super creepy and make it more, have that alien feel, Ridley Scott Alien movie.
Oh yeah,
and have that dark, creepy tone to it.
Yeah, I think that maybe. I mean, we have, you know, the dinosaurs have been scary and stuff like that, but in terms of the way they translated from book to film, I feel like they were much creepier and more haunting and scary in the books themselves. So I would like to see that aspect come to life. That would be great.
I thought that would be a great little, maybe 10-episode Netflix show that we could all see. And you can even bring back, what is the gentleman's name? Joseph something.
Yeah, we could have, both of them come back if they were willing to. You know,
right.
That would be awesome. And, you could have it, maybe they've aged the same amount or, depending on how the stories line up, that would be awesome. And I think they have been underutilized in that sense, I think I'm pretty sure everybody would agree with you and say that they'd like to see what happened to them.
Right.
I was thinking along the same lines too, so I think we're on the right track.
Cool, man. Yeah. I'm ready to hear one of yours.
Well, yeah, I'll just continue with this idea as well because, we saw them in Jurassic Park and we saw them very quickly in The Lost World. We didn't really get a sense of how they were doing or anything like that. So maybe mine's more so like a prequel to yours in a way. I would like to see where they what happened to them almost directly after the movie, maybe after The Lost World even, to see how it affected them. Because we know they must have struggled with their own fears or and you saw it in The Lost World, like the public just didn't believe that this actually happened. So I'd like to see how they tangle with that. Or how they maybe use it to their advantage. Does Tim become a paleontologist, or Lex, does she study computer science? I'd like to see that kind of stuff. It may sound a little boring at first, but I think it would be cool to dive into that. And like you said, maybe go a little dark here and make Tim, a dark character. Maybe it really messed him up. I could see that happening for sure.
Well, because I always looked at him as, in the first movie, he was such a go-getter. He always seemed very happy. And so I just thought, man, why not make a twist and he completely flipped.
Yeah.
And now he's a little obsessive and, I mean, because you saw how he reacted with Alan Grant.
Yeah, he was obsessed. He wanted to find out everything he could. He wanted to just know everything about Grant and dinosaurs and you could see him obsessing about, some other aspect of, maybe getting even or learning more or besting his grandfather or, Peter Ludlow or something like that. Right.
So, I mean, with what you would want to see, would dinosaurs even play into it?
I didn't even think about that, but honestly, no, I don't think so. I think maybe, it'd just be more of a a contained story. It doesn't have to be anything sprawling or epic like the films are. We don't have to go to not Hawaii, to Costa Rican islands. We could just be in I guess where were they? San Diego maybe.
Yeah.
So we could just be on the mainland, just telling a story there. Them going to school, them learning to do these things, these bad things, or learning to become who they are. I could see that being an awesome show or a novel or anything, really.
Well, that'd be pretty sweet too, though.
Yeah, so mine will lead into yours, so it'll be a little bit of a prequel, and then we'll get your Netflix show, and that'd be awesome.
There we go.
Yeah.
The next one I had would be a spin-off comic series, and I honestly thought it would be cool to have. I'm sorry, my dog just ran in here.
Oh, dogs are welcome on the podcast.
I thought it'd be cool to do a spin-off comic and actually focus on the ACU team that went in after the Indominus Rex.
Okay.
Now, I know in the film, it shows, their heart monitors and everything, and they seem to be going off. Like, they're all flatlining. Like the Indominus just
taking them out
everyone
left
apart. Left and right.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it'd be cool, man, if we did a comic book series that picked up right where that team was, and there was a couple survivors. Okay. Like, you'd see their heart monitors have flatlined, but maybe it was just a malfunction from the attack.
Yeah.
So a couple of them wake up, and they realize we've been left alone on the island. The island's been evacuated at this point.
Yeah.
So what the whole point of the comic is they're trying to get to the command center and make contact to see if somebody will come pick them up.
Yeah.
For rescue. So it's just a survival story.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Yeah.
And there's a couple things that I've thought from like a storyteller perspective, like this would be really, really cool to do is you can have them reach like the ACU headquarters, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And while they're in there, you can throw in Easter eggs. Like there's a picture of the guy from the first film, Robert. What was his last name?
Muldoon?
Robert. Yes. We'll make him. They could make in the story. He could be like the founder of the ACU, basically.
Oh, that would be
and
cool.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Have a couple little Easter eggs in there, and then like you can even throw in like some of the dinosaurs that people have been asking about. Them trying to outrun maybe a Spinosaurus.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, just maybe people even get like the Stegoceratops. That would be pretty cool because people have been dying to see that thing, and you got to see it inside the command center there on the computer. So, like maybe it was a side project that it actually did come to life, but it's like hidden in there and it actually attacks. That would be pretty cool.
Right, and what's funny is about this idea I was coming up with. I had come up with it about a couple months ago, and I was tweeting you about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But then you had that listener, Travis. It was on your episode 44. He brought up the thing about Kevin James, the zookeeper thing. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's like a comedic version of what I was wanting to do, except instead of it being a zookeeper, it's an ACU team.
Yeah, that's hilarious. The connection there. You're right, because I remember that one, and Kevin James was stuck on the island.
Right. And so, and you can even bring in Owen Grady back. Just he's the guy that turns around and says, "Oh, we've still got people on the island. We need to go get them off." Yeah. And of course, you can also bring in some familiar faces like one of the classic T-Rex and Blue. Blue can make an appearance. So,
what medium did you say? You said a comic, right?
Yeah, comic.
That would be perfect because you don't need to bring in an actor or do anything like that. Like it might be tough to get Chris Pratt to come in for a Netflix show even or anything.
Right.
Really. But for a comic, you have the license to basically do whatever you want. I mean, as long as you have their likenesses. But that would be perfect. The perfect kind of situation. A bunch of mini episodes about that story from being stuck out there in the jungle, making their way back. That would be pretty awesome.
Right. I've always, even coming back from after being attacked by the Indominus Rex, they got to be injured too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's, just the simple fact, the psychology behind it, like, oh my gosh, we're probably going to die. We're going to get eaten by something. We're not going to make it back, Yeah. Oh man. And just a little side note, I thought it'd be cool to make the lead of the comic a female. Because I don't know if we really got, but that's just me. What do you have next?
That would be great. Actually, let's see. I'll go sort of in line with yours a little bit. On the, I believe it was the Mizrahi website, there was the story about Vic Hoskins and his cleanup crew that went out and got the pteranodons from Jurassic Park 3. Right? Now, that was all made up, by the guys who made the website. And we can consider that canon in our sense here. And I'd love to see more about that. So I'm reaching out to them right now. Guys, let's hear more. I want to hear more about this story. I think this could be awesome. And whether it is a comic or a written story, a short story of some sort, I think it could be awesome. It could be a very visual story, trying to track down these pteranodons from Jurassic Park 3 because, you saw them escaping the island and basically, flying next to the helicopter there. And apparently, the Vic Hoskins, sends out a crew, and they go and capture these things, take them out, take them down. I don't know exactly what went down, but I'd love to know more about what happened. And maybe, I think I looked on the backdoor website for Mizrahi Global, and I believe it said that happened actually in, 2001. So right, at the time of Jurassic Park 3. So it would be great to see kind of like the rise of Hoskins to becoming like a somewhat of a villain in Jurassic World. So, to find out where he comes from and what kind of tactics they used with an ACU team or an InGen team of some sort, I would love to see that happen in a comic for, that I think that would be the best medium.
Right. Now, I got a question for you real quick, and I might just be really dumb or something, but now, is InGen owned by the Mizrahi Corporation?
Yeah, I guess it is kind of tough to grasp at this point. It's one of the companies I would guess under Masrani Global as a corporation. So I guess Masrani bought up, InGen and the parks and all that stuff. So I guess they control InGen in a way.
Okay, cool. That you just clarified a lot of stuff for me.
Hopefully I clarified it right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, the other story I had, and this is one I literally just came up with like maybe an hour ago, so it's totally just
fresh.
Whatever though. Yeah, and I was thinking about kids, and this is actually another Netflix idea, and I was thinking about Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars and the animation and stuff for that. Mm-hmm. And I thought, how cool would it be to do a series that's mainly based for kids, and I know this is really repetitive from the movies, but revisit the island. Just make up brand new characters who go to visit the island. And
yeah. Oh, so is this during the Jurassic World timeline or Jurassic Park?
I don't know. It could be either or. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just thinking completely. That's not. I mean, it's canon in a sense, but then it's not.
Okay.
Like it's its own little story. It has nothing really to do with any of the other characters. Other than the simple fact that they've visited the islands.
Okay.
And they just go, like, I don't know, you can make it like maybe some high school kids go, but make it more of an animated type of thing, and they just decide they're going to take a trip and go, and they go to the islands. And it's just them. Yeah. I don't know, like I said, it's a really cheesy idea. So
no, but I think you'd be tapping into a market that, like, they're missing out on, because you got to hit all these quadrants and get all the viewers that you possibly can. And, Jurassic Park might not, it's hard to say. It might not be for kids, because when I was, introduced to it, I was, 7 maybe?
7?
Yeah, right around there. So, it's tough to say that, but at the same time, I'd love to see something that kids can watch almost on a daily basis or a weekly basis. Something like that, where they can kind of get into the mentality of these kids or whoever is going to the island, even if it is just like a visitor's view of the new park, like a family visit to a park, and we get these stories of these kids or something that are on the island. That would be awesome, I think.
You could actually make, now that you were saying this, you could make it from like almost a prequel to Jurassic World, I guess. And because how long was Jurassic World running?
I think it was like 10 years.
Okay, so it had been around a while. So clearly they've had to have a couple incidences that maybe didn't really make it on the media's radar or anything like that. So you could do like a kid's story where they go to visit the park. Mm-hmm. And just maybe some of them are just being kids. Kids are being kids, and they just run off.
Yeah,
from the park. Getting into trouble.
Getting into trouble, but not like dying. There's no like crazy scenarios like that, but definitely getting into situations that are tough or hard to handle. But interacting with dinosaurs as well, but maybe just not the Zara situation that we got in Jurassic World.
Yeah, right.
So that would be really awesome, though. I really like that idea. Maybe you follow a set of families like vacationing. And that was actually sort of one of the ideas I had, like a family perspective. Not in this sense, but I'll just piggyback off of this for a second. We can go back to it. But I was thinking about like a family perspective set around the events of Jurassic World. So, we did get Zach and Gray and their story, but they were attached to the main cast. They were part of that storyline. I would kind of like to see something, an offshoot of that. Just a random family that showed up, just so happened to show up like that same weekend or whatever, and just their story about survival and how they reacted to the entire set of events there. So I'd like to see something like that. It's a little bit different than yours, but I think it'd be kind of cool to go with that is almost a found footage style film, because if you're on vacation, what do you want to do? You want to take your phone and film everything. You're doing, especially if it's family. You want to take pictures and stuff like that, and you can do a found footage style film. That would be incredible, actually.
Bouncing off your idea,
there.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, maybe not even really seeing the dinosaurs that much, except in like little glimpses here and there. Like, that's what's picking them up or what they're running into. But them trying to get out of there, trying to evacuate, trying to survive when they were all in what was that? That area, the entrance of the park, basically.
Yeah, well, they were huddled like around Main Street at first, and then it looked like they were huddled like in, I don't know if it was the hotel or like I think it was maybe the dock area, I guess where the ships would come in. I don't know if it was that or the hotel, but yeah, they were huddled in there once they were kind of safe. Right.
So that would be kind of cool though.
Yeah.
And it'd be not that expensive to make.
Oh no,
so,
yeah. All you just need is like good set dressing and all that. And a little bit of visual, just visual effects here and there. But like you said, it doesn't need to be focused on the dinosaurs. It could just be like I'm thinking just the family perspective. So it's more about the drama behind the situation, maybe some family issues, just how the public in the park reacted, because we saw how the team behind the scenes reacted. I'd like to see more of that chaos that we saw on the main street during the Pteranodon attack. Or, that would be awesome.
Right. That would be really cool.
But I think you were on a good track with like the family setting, something you can kind of sit down and watch as a whole family. That would be an awesome perspective as well, and something that's animated too. That would be great.
Yeah, I think of the animated stuff because I have a daughter.
Okay.
And she's really young right now. So I mean, like, I put on Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, and I'd say, hey, look, dinosaurs. And she's 1 year old, so she doesn't really pay attention too much. So, but the older she gets, the more she is starting to pay attention. And I thought, why not introduce her to things like Star Wars, the Clone Wars, or Rebels. And then this would be a really cool thing to do, is introduce a Jurassic animated series.
Yeah.
Just Jurassic, whatever they want to call it, to focus on something like that.
Yeah,
and then you can even bring in the original cast or characters if you wanted to.
Yeah, they really could. And,
right.
It doesn't even have to be, like you said, I think you said it, whether it was this story or another one, it doesn't have to be canon. It can just be its own thing. Like, so you could essentially have a story where you have the original cast, just different scenes that maybe we just didn't see, like some fun things that they've done, because I think, back in the day they had like a Back to the Future little cartoon, and, we didn't see any of that stuff in the films, but it would be great to see something similar to that, some extended, scenes and stuff like that.
Well, I really hope you're right about that Back to the Future cartoon. That's one of my favorite trilogies, and they're putting out new comics for Back to the Future.
I know.
So it's kind of
I got to pick those up. I haven't had a chance to go to a comic shop, so I've been dying to read those though.
Right. So, but man, that's basically all I had as far as ideas go. You came up with some great ones. I piggybacked off of most of them. And because I think when it comes to thinking of ideas, everybody's got similar ideas. We all want to see the same stuff. It's just the fact that maybe Universal isn't taking advantage of it, and it's whether they don't know that the fan base is this devoted or they just don't care. I don't know, but they're definitely missing some opportunities here. And whether it's a Netflix show or comics or TV like animated series, they got to do something. Well, they better start taking some notes. I know that Universal's working on rebooting their monsters, doing like Wolfman, the Mummy, and things like that, and they're going to make that all in the same universe.
Yeah.
And it's like, you need to take notes from Marvel Studios and even Warner Brothers and DC Entertainment, and just you got to see where they're killing it. I mean, Marvel's killing it on the screen, DC's killing it on TV, and it's
exactly.
And you just got to be like, you know what? We need to take notes from them and then go from there and branch out.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, I just came up with a really dumb talking about this, but they could even do a TV series, not necessarily based on some of the offset characters from Jurassic World, but do it like an Office style, a mockumentary.
That would be awesome.
Talking about
and Chris,
make it a comedy.
Yeah, Chris Pratt would be perfect for that.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, Just throwing that out there.
Well, I don't think that's that crazy because from what I heard, it was a rumor back, a little while ago. I think they're moving forward. I don't know if it's picked up or not, but I remember hearing something about whether it was a Marvel or DC. I don't remember, but something like an Office documentary style where they talk about maybe it's an insurance company that has to do all the cleanup for these superhero battles that we have in the middle of our cities. So that could be something hilarious.
They're actually filming right now.
Is it?
Yeah. I forgot the name of it, of the show, but it's got Vanessa Hudgens in it for sure. I know that.
Huh.
Yeah, she's going to be one of the main characters, but
it's
what
a
was
new
the name
take,
of that show?
It's a new take
Yeah,
that
it's just,
you may not be used to, but it could be hilarious and it fits in the world.
Right. And I think it's just going to be genius for them to do that. Mm-hmm. And I think it is developed by NBC too, which is who did The Office and Parks and Recreation.
Makes sense, yeah.
And things like that. So, I mean, I think that'd be cool to do something like that. Maybe from some of the other people who worked at the command center, their perspective and things like that. I mean, there's so many things they can explore.
I know. I have one last one. Sorry to interrupt. I didn't mean to.
No, you're cool.
In terms of a TV show, I have this one. It's more of a serious one, but you almost could, take it towards that direction that you just talked about. I think you could take it either way. I would love to see the setup of Jurassic World, because we had
that would be cool.
Yeah, we had from 2001 to 2015, and that was from from early days to the end of the park. I'd love to see what happened, at the very, very beginning, where they maybe have to do a bit of litigation to get that park up and running again. Maybe that's not too funny, but or interesting. But I'd like to see something like that. How the insurance companies, or how do they get those guys to back off? Because after all these deaths, how do they get something like this up and running again? And also, I'd like to see how do they corral the dinosaurs? How do they build the park? Kind of like a construction. And I think there could be a lot of drama, too, involved in this because of corralling the dinosaurs and getting them into containment. And, you get to meet new characters, maybe lose a few along the way. I think it could be a fun show, and it could be comical if you take it that direction. Maybe don't include the deaths or anything like that, but it could be pretty comical if you just spun it the right way.
Have you ever seen the AMC show *Halt and Catch Fire*?
No, I haven't. I've seen a lot of previews and stuff for it along the way, but I've definitely heard of it.
Okay, it's got that same feel of what you're talking about, but it's all in the 80s where the computer booms were coming, between Microsoft and Macintosh and things like that. And so you're seeing this all from a perspective of another company trying to develop a computer. So you see the competition there, and I can based off what you were saying is I could see maybe even diving into some of these other companies, what you've talked about on your podcast before, other companies trying to develop dinosaurs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It could be a show that could be centered around like you were saying, trying to get the insurance and stuff like that going for it, but even having competition to see who's going to try to create the first park since Jurassic Park's.
Yeah. That's actually probably one of the best ideas, I think. Taking it even back further than we're used to, even before the first movie, would be awesome.
That would be cool.
I know a lot of people are obsessed with, Dodgson and the company Biosyn from the books, which he apparently worked for, but you don't really get that sense in the movie. You don't know where he's coming from. So that would be an awesome way. Maybe that could be a Netflix series, or I'd like to see them take it in a TV show route. That would be really cool to get maybe what happened. Like you said, they're trying to vie for who's going to have the best park or who's going to have the best dinosaurs. Obviously, Jurassic Park won that battle, but I'd like to see, what the other company was doing and maybe what actually led them to that meeting at the that little Costa Rican restaurant there where Dodgson met Nedry, and what happened before that moment, and maybe what happened during the movie that we didn't see behind the scenes, or even after the movie. Just
I think that'd be
the consequences, the repercussions of Nedry not making it to that boat with the embryos.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
that would be a fantastic perspective and a fantastic story, I think.
Oh, absolutely. So. Yeah, taking it back and having that, like that show that you mentioned, it has a very specific look to it, doesn't it? I remember seeing like those previews and thinking like it does look like it is part of that setting that they're trying to convey.
Right.
Yeah, so I'd like to see something like set in the early 90s or late 80s. That would be really awesome.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a 90s kid. I'm assuming you're a 90s kid, so that'd be kind of cool to... That'd be cool to see. Just even just dial back to that.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
That would be awesome.
But, man, I'm fresh out of ideas on that.
Me too.
But there's so many that you could actually just explore. And I feel like they're... Go ahead.
I just think like doing something like this sparks debate. So, we could probably sit here and talk for another hour about like random, ideas and come up with some pretty good ones. Right.
We just need somebody at Universal. I hope you're listening to this.
Yes, please be listening.
Just to pull the trigger on some of these ideas.
And
then bring us in on it.
Exactly.
We got fresh ideas.
Yeah, that's the key part. Bring us in. We'll help you develop it. We'll take the time. We'll make sure all the fans are happy.
Right.
It'll be awesome.
But hey, it's whatever though. Just
eventually.
But there's just so many things. I mean, in the world where expanded universe is like the big thing, they just need to dive in and do it and just take a shot at it. See what happens.
I really think it'll pay off, and they're definitely missing it, and it would definitely be great for the fans and for their own company.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I hear you.
Thank you so much for joining me here. I want to make sure that people are following you and follow your work. Where can they, find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at saltygrave15. I am a blogger. I have a blog. It's at www.saltygrave.blogspot.com. I also was writing a comic that we had published in a newspaper out here in Arkansas, but you can find it at theimaginationofbillybaxter.blogspot.com. That comic's over and done with, but I'm currently working on something else right now, and I don't want to get too much in, talk about it too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be doing updates, and that comic will be published on my Salty Grave blog. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yeah, I'll make sure to include all the links in our show notes and let people know. We'll spread the word and definitely go visit your stuff because I went and saw your blog. There's some awesome stuff there.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
No, well, thank you for coming on. It's been awesome. Let's hope some of this stuff gets developed.
Yeah, man. Let's hope so.
Take it easy.
Yeah, you too.
Man. Man destroys God. Man creates dinosaurs. Boy, do I hate being right all the time.
We're gonna have to drop the can! Are you ready? 1, 2, come on!
So I was scouring ChrisCrossMedia's YouTube back catalog, and I came across a video he made back in 2012, giving a little bit of history on some of the comics released around the first two films. Let's take a listen.
One of my most cherished Jurassic Park items would have to be my Jurassic Park comic book collection, based on the movies and adventures that take place between or after the movies. The series was printed by Topps Comics throughout the 90s to coincide with the release of Jurassic Park and The Lost World. They always had cool outer packaging and really cool inserts like Jurassic Park giveaways, contests, and official Topps Jurassic Park trading cards. Most of the cards were exclusive to the comics and couldn't be found in normal booster packs. I personally think one of the best part about these comics were the covers, each being very unique with detail and vibrant with color, each little pieces of artwork. The first series released was simply called Jurassic Park. It was a 4-part adaptation of the first movie. Once again, the art inside was really amazing and captured the iconic scenes to comic format. It even contained deleted scenes from the shooting script that didn't make it into the final cut of the film. Because the first series was a hit, Topps went ahead and started the Raptor series, which basically takes place between Jurassic Park 1 and 2. These stories are not canon to the film franchise, but offer interesting adventures following the original characters from the first movie, like Dr. Grant and Dr. Malcolm. This series would usually revolve around hunters, scientists, and greedy businessmen coming to the island and taking dinosaurs for their own personal gain. And of course, our heroes would be there to save the day in the nick of time. These stories were usually pretty dark and were loaded with action. I always felt this series could easily be adapted to film if they ever wanted to make a midquel or a TV series. Something that I think really made these comics special were the behind-the-scenes sections at the back of the book. Internet wasn't a common thing in households during the 90s, and kids would usually rely on comics and gaming magazines to get their entertainment news. These sections always gave insight on how the movie was made, and even would speculate on what Spielberg was cooking up for a sequel. There were a few other series released and an adaptation of The Lost World, and just recently a new collection of Jurassic Park comics have been released, revolving around Lex and Tim from the first movie. If you can get your hands on these old school gems or the new comics that have just been released, I highly recommend you do so. I'm Chris, and you've just been Chris Cross.
See, that was pretty great, right? I'd love to get more input from Chris on the comics in the future, so we'll have to work on that. In the meantime, go find the links to his stuff with ChrisCrossMedia in our show notes, or just search for ChrisCrossMedia on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, don't forget to listen to Chris on episode 46, where we talked all about The Lost World. Thanks for listening to the 50th episode of the Jurassic Park Podcast. Of course, I need to thank Zach Carlisle for joining me today to talk about the expanded universe. Hopefully we'll get something sometime soon, and I hope it's similar to some of the ideas we came up with here today. Don't forget to follow him on his Twitter, @SaltyGrave15, and his blog at saltygrave.blogspot.com. Also, thanks to Chris from ChrisCrossMedia for letting us play his comic book clip here on the show. He has a giant catalog of videos on YouTube, so make sure to go check out his work. He's bound to have something up your alley. Also, don't forget to find my interview, the Triceratops video, and the article I wrote about Bayona, linked in the show notes. If you want to interact with us, we do most of our work over on Twitter, @JurassicParkPod. But we're also on Facebook at facebook.com/Jurassic Park Podcast, and our Instagram handle is @Jurassic Park Podcast. You can listen to us via iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Podomatic, YouTube, or wherever else podcasts are found. So make sure to subscribe to automatically get the new episodes every week. If you haven't already, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes or a great review wherever you listen to the podcast. It will seriously help our rankings and make it easier for fans like you to find us. We're usually spotted commenting on the Jurassic Park subreddit as Jurassic Park Podcast. Don't forget to check out our show notes for all the links you heard here today. If you want to get a hold of us, you can email us with any news stories, MP3s, segment ideas, pictures, top 10s, or comments to JurassicParkPod@gmail.com. If you'd like to record something for the show, send it in to us and we'll feature it in an upcoming episode. If you don't have any way to record, you can give our voicemail a call and leave us a message. That number is 732-825-7763. Thanks for listening, and enjoy.
Drop what you're doing and leave now.
Hello, and welcome to the 50th episode of the Jurassic Park Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Jost. I've got a sore throat, and it's giving me a very deep voice. Thanks for listening, and enjoy.